Both
All
of us,
right.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us here, guys, this afternoon. So this is our presentation, sort of titled "Cadavers to Can," and we'll decipher why that's called what it is as we progress through our presentation. And yeah, we've just got a few sort of take-home points on our 1 year. It's 1 year now.
Yep,
a little over 1 year in advertising, and oh man, what a year it's been, right? Absolutely crazy. So we'll walk you through that, and this is us right here. So this is us exactly a year and 2 or 3 weeks ago, or something like that. So 3 weeks. It'll be 3 weeks ago was a year. Standing outside of Zulu after delivering a package, dressed up in these sort of inconspicuous FedEx uniforms. And so I'm Michael, I'm the guy on the right, or on the left, the art director.
And I'm Patrick, the shorter guy on the right.
And the copywriter.
And the copywriter.
Of course. And yeah, so we'll get to what this stunt was shortly. But before we do that, we kind of want to give you a little bit of our backstory, because advertising wasn't, I guess, we didn't know we'd end up here, and really happy where we are. But the backstory is a little interesting.
Yeah. So my background is arguably a little more traditional. Right out of high school, I went and studied theater. So that's me holding a stick, pretending I know what I'm doing. And then after that, I studied journalism. So I knew that writing was a big part of my life, and I really enjoyed doing it. I liked creativity. I liked expressing myself. But I hadn't really figured out how to turn it into a career yet. And then I thought of advertising, and I heard of the Seneca program, creative advertising program, and it was a two-year program. And I took a chance on it. I wanted to learn how to become a copywriter. And that's kind of how I slowly got introduced to the world of advertising.
Yeah, I, on the other hand, knew very little about advertising until Patrick and I connected. I really didn't know what it was or what it entailed. I was actually on a pre-med route heading towards med school, and that's me actually up there in the upper right corner at McMaster University prior to growing all the facial hair I've had. So this was very early on in my undergraduate degree, which was in kinesiology. And I actually ended up working in an anatomy lab, and that was the medical director there. And I did a lot of medical illustration, a lot of videography of various surgical procedures, and I also prosected cadavers, hence the title. And that was a big part of what I did there. And I mean, it was a fantastic and an amazing experience. But I realized that creativity as a whole was a really huge part of what I wanted to do with my life. And the more and more I spoke to people in medicine, the more and more I realized that that wasn't actually an option there. And I would sort of be sacrificing one thing for another. And I don't think I was really prepared to do that. And yeah. And
so the timing kind of worked out, because in my program, we were starting to team up, copywriter, art director. So I was looking for someone to work with. And Michael and I had gone to high school together. We were in a play together, and that's about it. And I had noticed he was doing something really neat. He had a good project on the go that I was just seeing a little bit here and there through, Facebook and whatnot. And I decided to reach out.
Yeah, and so that project that Patrick referred to was, again, it was for the University of McMaster. I was also an emergency medical responder on campus, and within the area responding to medical emergencies would be sort of 12-hour shifts that we tag team. It's a 24/7 service. And they had this conference for other medical responders, and I was the PR guy. They knew I was. Michael likes filming, he likes editing. He's the creative guy. Let him brand the conference. So the conference became known as the Awakening, and it was my first time sort of diving into CGI and After Effects and Premiere Pro, and so I sort of self-taught myself the software throughout the course of this journey. And when all the responders came to campus, we sort of created this post-apocalyptic creation of McMaster University. And this right here was probably the tipping point that made me realize, you know what, I really love this creative stuff. I mean, I love the medical side too, and that's an important part, but this is what I absolutely love doing. And if this is something that I could get paid for and turn into a career, that would be amazing. And that's actually when Patrick reached out to me, told me about what advertising was, and told me a little bit about what I should do with this campaign, right?
One may argue I was the conduit or the tipping point. But no, I saw what Michael was doing, and the timing was perfect. So we met, and we started talking about our hobbies and creativity, and different projects. So the Awakening came up, and I was really impressed. And I thought, okay, well, this is a really cool thing. You should definitely consider applying it to the ADCC and whatnot.
So yeah, the Advertising and Design Club of Canada,
Yeah.
they have a student portion of the competition. So I submitted this whole campaign, again, not knowing what advertising was. And I actually, managed to win the student gold for that, which was, again, absolutely humbling experience and very unexpected. And, kind of a proof point that told me that, you know what, this might be the right track, and this might be something that I should probably sort of dive into. And it was covered by local press there on the left as well.
So what happened afterwards is we decided to just try it out. We never worked together. We haven't seen each other God knows how long. And we had heard of the National Advertising Challenge. So as you see on the screen right now, that was our submission, which did fairly well. It won a silver.
Yeah. The brief was essentially like to brand to get mothers to bring their children to the Toronto Zoo during Canada's 150th, and we sent these mailers. Kind of DM is sort of a dying craft, but we arguably, yeah, exactly. But we sent these party hats that were mailed to mothers that also doubled as a coupon, and there was a huge social campaign. Because what mother doesn't like taking pictures of their children? So utilizing that behavior and getting them to party like an animal and celebrate Canada's 150th at the zoo. And to Patrick's point, we managed to take the student silver, which I think again was a proof point that,
Yeah, what was really neat about that is that was the first time we had actually worked together. So there was a lot to learn, and we meshed well. We got along really well, and we were really excited about solving problems and, trying to come up with a neat idea. So that was also, if I may, like the next tipping point, the next push that, hey, there's something cool here, and we'd like to continue working together.
Yeah. So we did a little bit of, some sort of like freelance side gigs, and while doing so, we stumbled upon Crowdcreate, and we realized there's this whole world of creative crowdsourcing that exists where you're competing to solve challenges for big brands. So getting exposure to real briefs by real brands, and your work gets chosen, you actually get to produce it. There's a chance to win some money. So Crowdcreate was one of them. Aika and Tongle, or a few others. We can mention the links a little bit later. But so we took a stab at this, and there were two briefs that we worked on very early on. One of them was for Campbell's Soup, for Chunky, sort of bringing them back and creating a campaign that shifts sort of their focus of their demographic to the modern man, and then a Maltesers campaign for the chocolate. So it worked out quite well as well.
Again, for a second rodeo, we were really happy about getting third place. It was, again, these things are learning experiences. It's about how to work together as a creative team, how to take real briefs that we're not used to yet, or at that time were, and just doing an exploration. So yeah, it was a very good step in the process.
Yeah, and I mean, winning, I guess, $2,000 wasn't a bad. Yeah, that was a nice little bonus or addition to the whole thing. So this is actually sort of how the summer wrapped up, and things are going great. And in beginning of September, specifically September 8th, Zulu Alpha Kilo reached out to me over LinkedIn, and it was the creative resource manager said, they're looking for an art director. Would I be interested? And again, knew nothing about the role, and it was my assumption that I think they may have come across my name through some of the the national, the NAC or the ADCC shortlist, or some of the stuff. Somehow the name came up. And Patrick and I said, well, we're a team, and we'd like to, tackle this as a team. They were only looking for an art director at the time, so we said, you know what, let's do something. Let's do something to get their attention together, to show them what we can do together, and that's how the No Specs came to be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We were both very impressed with the Say No to Spec video, and the whole idea of saying no to the spec work process. And just the idea of the no spec glasses kind of germinated, and we thought it was funny, we thought it was interesting, and we just explored it.
Yeah, so we essentially designed these glasses, a very bold, very no with the exclamation mark. We 3D printed them, and the goal is that these could be worn by individuals at Zulu Alpha Kilo during various meetings if you needed help saying no to a client, especially when it came to spec work type thing, right? And Zulu Alpha Kilo has a fictitious website, right?
Right. I mean, on the website it's fictitious. It's a bit of a parody. So we framed all these glasses for the characters on the website, really just imitating the tone and feel of of the site itself.
Yeah, and built them specifically for Frank Zulu, Marcus Alpha, and Catherine Kilo. And if you guys don't know about this website, I highly suggest checking it out. It's absolutely hilarious. And we're like, you know, this is a really, really cool place, and it really resonates with our values and sort of, yeah, what we like in the creative world. So we created these glasses, and again built specific packaging for each individual member. You know, lots of sort of package design, copy, so just a way of showcasing the craft and what we're capable of doing as a team.
Absolutely.
But then, you know, we said, you know, we're already going into this, you know, taking a risk here. It's a little silly. It could be laughed at. It might not be taken seriously. So, but like, you know what, we're just going to go all in, right? And we figured, how are we going to deliver this to Zulu? So we created a fictitious, you know, sort of parody on FedEx, FedUp with spec. As you can see, even the arrow there, you know, there's an arrow hidden in the original FedEx logo. We decided, all right, let's bring that all in. So we created this FedUp with spec sort of brand and associated accessories. So we had hats created at Lid stitched. We had the uniform and the box created and replicated to look exactly like FedEx.
Yep. The hats were the most expensive part, if you can believe it.
Exactly. And then the whole thing was finished September 15th. So we heard from Zulu September 8th. We didn't really know about the turnaround time, so we're like, let's get something out the door quickly. So a week later, we packaged everything up into, you know, the separate containers, straight into the FedUp with spec box, complete with, you know, the delivery paper, and yeah, delivered it by hand to Zulu. Didn't have a truck, right?
No truck.
And ended up taking the streetcar, exactly how you see. We had someone follow us with a camera to document it, right?
Yep.
And yeah, delivered it flawlessly. You want to talk about what happened when we showed up?
Right. So I guess the costumes were, the FedUp logo was pretty convincing. So we were just treated as actual delivery men. So we kind of had to play it out to make sure our box got to Zach. But it's important to note as well that we know that sometimes stunts can be gimmicky, and oftentimes they're frowned upon and it doesn't quite work. But the success of this one, we think, is that we did our homework on Zulu, and we made sure that we aligned with the mission and the values. And frankly, we were having some fun with it and took a chance on it. So,
and we knew we were in the right territory. I mean, we knew based off of the website that this is sort of the humor, you know, that Zach appreciates, but we didn't really know how sort of on point it would end up being. And yeah, really glad with how it turned out. So we delivered that. We heard back, you know, a few days later, and you know, after sort of all the scheduling happened, we were called in for an interview, and we met Zach. And you know, this was our real first, I guess, chance or first opportunity working for you know, doing a sort of a real fully integrated, I guess, pitch to a client, right? We've done all the briefs before, and they were competitions, but this was like a real, you know, we did the research, we found the insights, and curated this towards you know, the agency, and yeah, it worked out. Zach essentially hired us on the spot. Again, we're not expecting that. We just kind of wanted a meeting with him and chat with him to see how he runs sort of an agency where they say no to spec work. But he hired us on the spot and said, you know, what are you doing with the rest of your day? And we said, well, yeah, I mean, I guess nothing. Like, we were gonna celebrate. And he goes, well, you know, come upstairs. And 5 minutes later, we were working on our first brief, and that was the day, I guess, our life changed.
Everything changed.
Yeah, not even, I wouldn't even say overnight, over an afternoon, right? And yeah, and
So this is a bit of a testament too to just how the no specs was received. This is earned media that came from it.
Yeah. So
and we're quite proud of that.
Yeah. So it somehow worked out. It was a calculated risk, and yeah, all in. So that brings us to ad life, right?
Now that we've made an impression and we're in, the real test began. Learning how to work, how an agency functions, how to be two junior creatives with no past experience at all, survive and work on amazing campaigns. But I'd like to preface this, that we've been given incredible opportunity, and we're absolutely honored to have worked on the work that we're going to showcase quickly, because it's been an incredible experience.
Yeah, and over the course of the year, we've had a chance to touch essentially 13 different brands, which, again, to Patrick's point, really phenomenal that we've I'm grateful for the opportunity to have worked on all that. We've participated in 2 competitions and had sort of 2 side projects throughout the whole experience. And we'll kind of walk through them very briefly. We don't have time to showcase all the work, but we'll showcase some of the stuff that we're proud of, but also that meant a lot because it was a certain, I guess, milestone or point in our very, very early career. So I guess the first thing is that brief 5 minutes later that we were called up to work was for RGD.
Yeah, so this was an incredible experience working on RGD with a whole slew of incredibly talented creatives. It is a branding identity exercise for design thinkers in Vancouver and Toronto. So there was a whole bunch of writers, a whole bunch of art directors, incredibly talented designers on this, and we had the opportunity to do all this great work like this.
And it was essentially the campaign was speaking, it was essentially approaching design truths to the design industry. So it was a very copy heavy campaign, leveraging very clever truths.
Yes.
And just styled within this black and white identity. And we had there were posters that were present at both venues in Vancouver and Toronto. I think they were like 5 or 6 months apart, and on top of that, a lot of the accessories throughout the event, T-shirts, even strictly, the beautifully designed T-shirt you'll never wear again. These the lanyards being, just a funny name for business necklace, tote bags, websites, and then the final sort of piece was a video that we got to shoot, which was bringing in famous designers from the Toronto area, hooking them up to a polygraph test, and bringing in an actual interrogator to interrogate them about their design truths. There's a little sort of quirky, funny way of tying the whole thing together.
Absolutely, it was an absolute pleasure to shoot this. It was a lot of fun.
So that was our realistically the very first campaign that we worked on, even though it actually just finished. A few weeks back is when the Toronto conference was. So it was almost a year-long process. But it was the very first project we were put on. The second one?
So this one's quite an experience for us as well, because as we were working through RGD, this spot for Tim Hortons is the first thing we've actually produced as a team. Created.
Yeah, it was like the first time that we get to produce a full-on video with an actual professional full-on crew. Yeah. Just a surreal experience, right?
So the whole idea is this idea was born from the insight that 50% of Canadians hardly know their own neighbor. So how do we create a conversation with Tim Hortons to bring Canadians together and have a nice warm moment?
And this was part of their the rebrand that Zulu did when we got Tim Hortons as a client, and this is one of the first sort of brand love pieces that was put out by them. And so it actually all stemmed from this drawing at, again, 1:45 a.m. We were like, well, what if we, neighbors don't know each other. What if we actually got them together over a cup of coffee? What if we slapped on this just a table onto the fence line, brought them together at that table, and that was sort of what we had presented to our creative directors. And yeah, and it went through towards a presentation for the client. They bought off on it, and that's us right there on the right side, actually sitting at one of the tables in the backyard of the neighbors. And then yeah, we had team members.
We found real neighbors that didn't know each other who were willing to be on camera, and we just had them meet over a coffee, and it was a really nice, beautiful sequences of nice moments.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was our, again, kind of significant moment for us. Was our first time working. The crew was like 50 people. We had trucks in the neighborhoods. We had 3 or 4 DOPs. It was our first, I guess, big production experience. And again, very grateful to have that, especially within our first year in the industry. And the next one, which is very special to us, because again, going back to this idea that we're quite new, we know that the One Show is an incredibly respected award within the industry. So it was an honor to be able to work on a campaign that spoke to others in the industry. And so this one was an honor. And we actually worked on this one with another team that's been here at Zulu as long as us, Christina and Andrea, and they're doing a presentation tomorrow as well, part of the creative futures. So this was sort of our campaign, and there's a few other creatives that were on this. We've had some writers and CDs as well. So this one was the call for entry for the One Show Awards, and it landed on the following, I guess, tagline, right?
Yeah, win, pencil, draw, respect. It's actually live right now, which is a lot of fun. And it was just an incredible process, especially working with such talented people and really getting down to the insight and just seeing where we landed with it. So these are just a couple examples of some print.
Showing the levels of respect. And so the idea was that, you've won a pencil, you get the respect that you need, and we kind of showed that level through, from gold to silver to bronze to absolutely no respect for not winning a pencil. And there was a bunch of video that accompanied that as well. So they'd show various scenarios up top, from being not taken seriously at a jury table to, asking IT for some more equipment, to leaving, your place of work and not being taken seriously. And then the pencil comes in and it's kind of slammed on the table. And we see the exact same scenario play out more favorably once the respect is there. And again, this was a group process with a series of creatives. And then the last thing is something that came out two days ago, and this is a milestone for us because it was our first big sort of integrated pro bono campaign. So this is for the Coalition for Gun Control, and we want to jump on to the next section. So we're not going to go through too much of this work. One thing that we do want to show, as that was one of the big pieces, was this installation that was spread throughout the city in various vistas, and it was a plexiglass casing. A plexiglass display, and then as throughout the hour, it was filled up with empty casings that would swallow up the skyline. And this was a quite integrated campaign. So there was a few other guerrilla pieces, some wild postings. There's out of home boards along the Gardner, and then a Cineplex, a cinema spot, and some social videos as well.
Yeah, and the timing is really interesting because this is happening right now.
Yeah, it's a conversation that's taking place right now, and it was also the first campaign that we've actually had that's gained quite a lot of PR and coverage. So we actually had CTV do a live segment 2 days ago, right? I think 2 days ago on the campaign during one of the install sites. This one was in Riverdale.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
On top of everything and all the great opportunities we're getting at Zulu, there's always extra curricular, proactive opportunities in Adland. The Young Lions Competition 2018 by the Globe and Mail is a great opportunity to cut your teeth against other young creatives around the country. So Michael and I decided to participate in the film category, which was a 48-hour film competition where we'd get a brief and then we'd have to produce a 30-second spot and submit it by Monday morning. It was a long process, lots of learning, but we were really thrilled that we managed to sneak in bronze. And once again, it's just all this stuff, as great as getting an award is, it's about learning a new skill, learning the process, and cracking a problem together.
Yeah, especially under such a short period of time. I think that was the big thing with this one. So that was the Young Lions, and then the other big award. Or one of the other big competitions that takes place every year is Carte Blanche, and Carte Blanche is a little trickier. It's open to those within the industry, and it's tricky because the ask is to produce just an out-of-home board, a very creative out-of-home board, and the idea is that you have to do work for a real client that your agency has, and on top of that, that work actually has to be approved by the client before it's submitted. So you've got a few hoops to jump through, and one of the we've had a few sort of entries, but one of the entries that essentially the entry was this one right here, which was called City Colors. And on our commute, we realized that the CN Tower changes color. It's got quite a lot of different color combinations, which is very similar to the stand mixer that KitchenAid has. They've got something like 60 colors.
Quite a few.
Yeah, quite a few colors. I believe it's 60. And they do and so we were like, how could we use this this data point? And so what the creative was is that we would match the colors of the stand mixers that are shown on the board that has the CN Tower in the background as the CN Tower changes color. So whatever color the CN Tower would be, the mixer would follow, and
that was amongst a few submissions, and we were quite surprised and thrilled and excited. I think you can see it on my face. It's slowly dawning that we're going to Cannes. We got to meet some incredible creative leaders, and really just. I
think we were flabbergasted when we walked in.
Yeah,
this was an incredibly humbling experience. I don't even know what to say. It didn't dawn on us until a few weeks later. The trip was sort of a week-long trip with 2 passes to the festival. And it was sponsored by Astral and Bell Media. And yeah, a month later we were on a plane on our way to Cannes,
which leads us to the next part,
the side project bit, right?
The side project, because it's always, for us at least, it's the no specs we consider a bit of a side project, and what we're about to speak to next was also just a really big part of just us as a team trying to come up with a new idea, have fun with things, and just experiment a little bit. So when we got tickets and the delegate pass and everything to go to Cannes, we started talking about it, that most agents, if not all, are there for a shortlist. They're on a shortlist for an award, but we're going purely for observation, which is amazing. We get to see all the talks, get to learn, get to network, get to meet people. But we kind of thought it's kind of off-brand for us to just go. So what can we do? How can we create opportunities for ourselves? How can we really just maximize the experience and
take advantage of everything it has to offer? So since we weren't on any short list, we said, well, what if we make a shirt list, all right? Just a list on a shirt. It's exactly what it sounds like. A list on a shirt of things we hope to accomplish throughout the course of the week, and, commit to wearing these shirts for the week and get individuals to help us check off the various asks. So that's us on the left on the plane to Nice, to France, and then that's us on the final day after going through the list. Or the final morning, I believe, right?
Morning.
Seeing the sunrise.
We like to think we got, 75%?
Yeah, 75% through the list. Some of the things that we were able to check off, like eating fried chicken with the Colonel, kissing a titanium lion. That one, I think, actually was the Crocodile Dundee one that Droga 5 one. Recreating the Titanic scene on a yacht, sharing a legendary moment with Bob Isherwood, hanging in a French villa. We got to film a luxury music video in a 1.5 million euro supercar, sampled all the rosé we could get. And so, I mean,
the big takeaway for this is we had a lot of fun, but we got to meet Bob Isherwood. We got to connect a lot with the ad industry internationally and nationally as well. And at the end of the day, it was a huge learning experience to go to Cannes, listen to the talks, and start to get to know the community better and better.
And the thing is that what actually surprises is that in a time where everything is digital and we're all connected, it was something as ridiculous and silly as wearing yellow shirts that got quite a bit of attention. We had people stop us, read the shirt, read the list, kind of want to jump on board to help us through the list, and we were essentially walking billboards and got through 70% of the list. Some things we didn't get to do, compare shoe sizes with Shaq. We actually, after the talk, were able to get on stage, but security stopped the swarm of people, and Sir David Attenborough unfortunately got quite ill and wasn't able to make the talk, so that one fell through, unfortunately, too. But I guess the great moment at the end of it all was that there was a Lions Daily News that they sort of recap everything that has happened every single day, and we were actually featured in the Lions Daily News on the final night, I believe, right? Just talking about the stunt a little. And
yeah, no, that was very rewarding because, again, who doesn't like a little earned media, and what's wrong with having some fun and just a small little insight about not being on a short list and taking it to a new level. And I think that kind of
not taking ourselves too seriously, as you can tell. And then, so I guess that's a pretty good segue into our takeaways. So.
Absolutely, because now that we've kind of walked through the work and kind of showed a little bit about how we operate as a team, we know that the purpose of this is how to break into advertising and how to grow and what to learn. So these are our takeaways. Everything is.
I think everything here, these are takeaways from our year in advertising, but I think every single point that we bring up really really works for someone trying to break into the industry as well. It's really about a certain mindset, and that's sort of what we're going to walk through right now. And I know this is sort of a tried and true thing that it gets said a lot, but really none of what happened would have been possible without hard work, and there are really no shortcuts. It's really just putting in the time, it's putting in the hours, it's working hard, and then when you're working hard, working harder. And you really get what you put in this industry, and it really does show in the creative. And I think that's very important when you're starting out.
And to build off working harder, that means, especially at the early stage where it takes us a bit longer to get to a good idea, you need to be prolific, and that means quantity. That works for us really well. It's not 4 ideas or 5 in an internal. It could be hopefully 10, 15, 20. Like just go hard at it. Hopefully a couple stick. For writers, again, I'm new as well, but a big thing for me is, and I've been told by a lot of CDs, is write 100 headlines, do as much as you can, constantly explore and constantly bring more, because there's more to use and there's more to play with down the line.
Absolutely. And so as a result of this quantity, don't fall in love with your first idea. Don't get married to your ideas. And I think that's very important, is that a lot of the time, especially early on, you get attached to that first idea that you think is great, and you really hold on to it. And, there are times where that idea does make its way all the way to the end. But what we've noticed is that a lot of the time you usually come up with better work on the second or the third round. And we found, at least, that a lot of the times when you're so exhausted and you've hit that wall and you think, there's no way I am ever going to come up with any other possible options, you really haven't. It's surprising the way that the mind can work, and you still somehow are able to get that. And that's usually where the fresher stuff, I think, comes.
Absolutely. Resilience. It's advertising, especially in the creative department, is hard, because you come up with ideas that you're excited about, and sometimes, if not all the time, it can be shut down. So it's important to develop that tough skin and understand that it's about the craft, it's not about you. You're not bad. Sometimes the ideas can be bad. And it's about picking yourself up and dusting yourself off and working harder and going at it. Because what we've been encouraged and what we've learned here is that greatness comes with just a lot of hard work. And to get to that point is you need to be resilient when things don't work out, because oftentimes things change.
Absolutely.
All the time.
Absolutely. And then so that leads to taking risks. You really have to fight for what you believe in, and really stepping out of your comfort zone. I think it's quite easy to fall back on safe, because it's sort of tried and true. It's stuff we see, and you're like, okay, so that's sort of the territory I can live in. But what we've sort of found is that if a certain thought or a certain idea scares you, or you're uncertain, or it worries you, then a lot of the time, you're on the right track, and that's really when you start getting towards, something
like going to one of the biggest advertising award shows on the planet and wearing a yellow shirt all week. That sounds kind of ridiculous, and odd, but in a way, it kind of worked for us.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, and then I mean, sometimes the half thought can also turn into a.
Yeah. Thank you, and. Also, very importantly, sometimes, you come in with ideas, concepts, but there can be a half thought that you don't know. Maybe it's a sticky name, or maybe it's just a place or something. But this is a teamwork environment, and that can definitely kick off a great idea. So don't sell yourself short. Sometimes even a half thought can blow up into something really interesting. Next is ideas are only as good as we can sell them. That's a nuance we've learned as we've spent a year and a little bit in the industry. Sometimes when you present concepts or ideas, or even when you're in a client presentation, you kind of have to stand behind the ideas you believe in, and you need to push sometimes.
And be able to communicate those ideas. I think the most important thing is that an idea can be good, but if you're not able to communicate that to the individual who's buying that idea or signing off on that idea, then you know it's a little I don't want to say worthless, but it's only half the battle is the idea. The other half is communicating that idea and getting it across. So I think that that communication of that idea is very important. So those communications, because especially building them on early, really help you through.
Just to add to that too, it's that's where, as a creative, if you're a writer or if you're an art director, there's different skills that it's important to develop or consider developing, like public speaking, presentation skills, because you will be presenting to your creative directors, you will be presenting to clients, and you can come up with a great idea, but yeah, you need to speak to it too.
So the next one is consume culture incessantly, and that's the biggest thing. Lurk Reddit, read books, watch movies, go to art galleries. People watch the way that people do things. Read tons of books, read tons of magazines. I think the most important thing, so that we find is that when you're looking for inspiration, you look for it outside of the ad industry. And don't get me wrong, I think it's very important looking through annuals and making sure that you're aware of what kind of work is out there and what kind of work exists. But I think if we spend too much time in that territory, then you kind of end up repeating some of the same concepts, some of the same formulas. But a lot of the time that we found that work has permeated or made it through to that final round, it's because the inspiration for that came from an observation or some other part of art and culture. So I think as a creative, it's our responsibility to cultivate our curiosity and just consume culture incessantly, right?
Mm-hmm. So again, participating in competitions, especially as a student, it's so great to break out of the classroom and just, cut your teeth on something without, the help of your teachers. You have a partner or you go solo, you get real briefs in your hand, you get real challenges. And when you go to events, you rub shoulders with other students and professionals. It can turn into a networking opportunity. It's just constant practice. In our case, you can maybe make some money. You can win an award. You can get your name out. Again, in Michael's case, that actually, by participating in a competition, it opened an opportunity for Zulu Alpha Kilo. So we highly stress that not only to improve your craft, for networking, and if you really believe you want to break in, you should be definitely considering getting more involved and challenging yourself.
Yeah, but also even the brief competitions, that CrowdShape one that we mentioned earlier, the great thing with that is that it gives you the opportunity to work on a real brief for a real client in a real setting. And the point with those, maybe it's not even to win. The point is that you get the experience and you get the work for your book. Because I think a lot of the time when we're starting out, you're trying to come up with an idea and you're working through creating a brief for yourself and then answering that brief creatively. A lot of the time, some of the best stuff comes out from being given that box and being given that brief. And yeah, sure, the money or the award or the bragging rights are a bonus, but that's not even the point. The point is the experience. And I think as a student looking to break in, that's very important. The next thing is bringing your personality into your work, and that's sort of an observation that we've seen is that if you're sarcastic or you're quirky or you've got something that's I guess a big part of who you are as an individual, I would not try to hide that or disguise it. I'd really own it and try to bring it into your work. And I think that's great because I think you end up creating work that you believe in and can stand behind a lot more because it's truly a reflection of who you are as an individual. And I think the Fed Up with Spec Stunt, the Shirtless, those sort of are examples of when we did that and had fun and played up who we were, and it helped. It certainly helped.
I'd just like to add too that it's obviously it's a risk. That goes back to the other point about taking risks. Is some people will think no spec wasn't a good idea. Some people think the Shirtless was too much. But you even out the odds and see how it goes. So again, personality, that's you, that's your individuality, and that's important.
Yeah, which leads us to
don't take yourself too seriously. It's our experience, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate. It's a high pressure, tense environment. You have to come up with solutions on the spot. There's deadlines. Advertising is hard, but you need to have some fun with it. You need to learn how to breathe, go for a walk. And when you're super overwhelmed, we've heard this said a few times here and there, you know, it's just advertising.
Yeah. I think the next, or we're just close to wrapping up now, but being friendly to everyone, you know, it's a small industry. Don't make enemies, don't burn bridges. You will see a lot of people, you know, again, it's just a matter of playing it cool. And I think there's no point in being you know, an asshole. It just doesn't work. You know, be friendly, be nice. And I think the other thing is being able to acknowledge good work. You know, go up to your fellow peers, go up to your creatives, you know, look at their work and say, you know, that's great. I really like that.
It's a learning process. So we're all competitive. So when you see something that's really great, it's not, oh, I wish I did that. It's more like, oh, wow, that was really good. How did they do that? How can I apply that to my craft the next time I'm working on a brief? Because we're all in it together, and everyone wants to do great work, and and this is a team effort constantly.
Yeah, and that sort of leads us to the last 2 points. One is always be humble. You know, I mean, we've been very grateful for the opportunities we've had, and I think that goes a long way as well when getting opportunities. Right? Is you know, thanking CDs for their time, thanking them for the opportunity, and being kind regardless of what the attitude on their end might be. And this is especially important, you know, for students going around getting their books seen at any of the, you know, the events or review sessions. You know, regardless of what the reactions are, you know, just be thankful for the opportunity. And
you never know when you say thank you or smile, who can remember that and how that can positively affect an opportunity that comes down your line.
Yeah, it's definitely noticeable. And our last point to sort of wrap it up, and this is sort of an accumulation of everything we've talked about, is, you know, you have to want to be great and to really, you know, do great work, and you know, that's a combination of the hard work, of you know, being prolific, you know, infusing your personal time into it, all that. But you really have to want to be great, and I think that's advertising is a meritocracy. That's sort of what we've noticed. If you can put in the time, if you can put in the work, and if you can deliver, the opportunities will open up, and yeah, that's I think that's a good note to end off on. We've kind of willing to open it up to any questions you guys may have. We're really happy to answer them. Yeah, I hope this little sprint through our 1 year.
We just covered a year in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But if there are any questions, we're absolutely
yeah, open.
Okay, great, guys. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, yeah, we can, Bonnie.
Okay, I got confused with whether my mute was on or not on. Want to thank you guys. We are almost actually out of time, so just going to be able to take a couple questions, which I'm really sad about because I myself have like 10 questions here that I'd like to ask.
We'll see if you can sprint through the questions.
Well, what we might do actually is we can ask you, and you can answer them online, for example, on one of your like social channels or something. You know what I mean? Maybe we can do that after. But anyway, here's a question for you. You said that you know, the working hard is what it's all about. And just, you know, put it in. It's a meritocracy. So what you put in is what you get out. So the question is, are you guys an anomaly with that? Millennials kind of get slammed with that all the time, is that they don't put in the time. So are you guys an anomaly, or do you see around you, no, in advertising, everybody knows that and just does it? Or are you guys really putting in more time than most other people in their first year?
No, I think this is true to the industry as a whole. Especially it's true to a lot of people here. So I think it's true to everyone here at Zulu. We're definitely not the only ones putting in the hours and the time. We
work with peers that are really inspirational. Everyone puts in a lot of time, puts in effort, and in a way kind of creates an energy where, you know, oh, they're working hard, I got to work hard, let's work hard. But at the end of the day too, it can be tough with an idea, because sometimes you just want to keep going on it.
I think the thing with advertising also as a whole is, especially for creatives, is there's such ownership over your work. You know, you're producing a product, that your name's going on, right? It's a product that you're putting into your portfolio. It's a product that, you know, you're selling to a client who, and you're solving a real business problem. You know, you've got your peers in the industry who have their eyes on it, and then your family and friends. So the effect of it is fourfold. And so because of this ownership, we do find that in this industry specifically, people do put in the work because and the time, because you want the best possible product at the end of the day, because it's a representation of who you are.
Okay, good. A couple of quick questions. Michael, sounds like you didn't study at all advertising. Patrick came and found you, and he was near the end of his studies. I mean, obviously you got a job right away in this industry. Do you think it's going to hamper you that you didn't study? I mean, it's kind of a ridiculous question, actually, because you've had such success in the past year. I can't imagine it would hamper you, but do you feel at all hampered in any, like amongst your peers there, that you don't have some of the background that they have in terms of, you know, just, you know, collection of knowledge from that scholarly sense?
So from a scholarly sense, and to be completely honest with you, I would say no. Everything that I've learned about advertising, I have learned on the job, and I've learned you learn them very quickly within the first 2 or 3 months, as you're sort of, getting on your feet and getting, and understanding how things work. So, I mean, I think it's great if you know that coming in, but I don't think that hinders you at all. I think what did help for sure is that I had, I sort of self-taught myself the Adobe suite, and it was a passion of mine to learn all that. So knowing that coming in was definitely is what helped. But in terms of understanding the way that an ad agency functions, that is something that I think can totally be learned once you get here.
Okay. Another quick one then, and probably it's going to have to be the last one, is when you guys said ideas are only as good as you can sell them. And so it sounds to me you also said you treated your interview at Zak like a pitch. And I think other creative directors I've heard from have said that that's the one thing they hear when new people come in, is that they're just not able to sell themselves. Do you think it's that you treated it like a pitch, that's the key to an interview? I mean, you guys had a great stunt behind it, but beyond that, if you hadn't done that, it's because you have to treat your job interview like it's a pitch.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's a representation of who you are, and you are in a way selling, yourself for the job, right? And so I think that's definitely an important part of it.
Yeah, because I kind of alluded to it earlier, but when you do something that you think is great, the idea, communicating it and explaining it and being able to defend it is so important, and that's the confidence element of it, where you can talk to it, you can stand there in front of everyone and just
be able to back it up.
Yeah. And yeah, I think going into the interview, we may not have had a conversation like that, but it definitely helped.
It's the tipping point.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Just one quick last thing then. How important do you consider the side projects you've done to your overall portfolio now?
I think it's great. I think it shows a bit of our initiative. I mean, we like to do creative projects. We enjoy trying new things, and we think it doesn't hurt. It's all, again, like it's always a learning process.
But I think especially it's very important. At least this is how I see. I see side projects as, even if you're not doing the type of creative work you would like to be doing in your internship or in your agency, there's really no reason why you can't be doing that on the side yourself. And so I've heard from some people, in the industry who have been here a while, that a year or two has gone by where I've not been able to put anything into my book. And I think the way that we see it is, well, that year or two went by, but that's still enough time for hopefully you to be able to do something on the side, something that you are proud of, some sort of creative venture or creative outlet that you can bring into your portfolio and showcase as part of your abilities.
Yeah. That's fantastic. You guys, I think all the takeaways you've had are so sage. I think a lot of people can really learn from you too. I'd love to talk to you more. Maybe we will have that chance. And I want to just thank you today. I'm going to have to wrap up because we've got another live webinar happening in just a few minutes. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Patrick. I will see you guys in a couple of days, actually, at our expo.
Sounds good.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for having us.
And thank you to Zach for recommending you two guys. Thank you so much to Zulu Alpha Kilo for sponsoring you guys to be here, and thanks to Scholarships Canada as our tech partner.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.